The last video defined art as a heuristic step towards a more concise definition. Later in the chapter, I apply Occam's razor to get the distinct elements of art. Most of Chapter 2 is a long journey devoted towards revealing and understanding why it's the ideal definition and expounding on core disciplines. I use a lot of metaphors in the book. Early in Chapter 2, I theorize the logical emergence of what I call core disciplines explained later in the chapter. This is illustrated in Figure 8 with a metaphoric portico of perception. In Stage 1, the foundation and first step of the portico emerges. This covers the entire history of the universe before life emerged. Once life emerges, we eventually get to the behavior we call art in Stage 2. I explain later in the book why this broader definition of art precedes all other disciplines. In this stage, it's only motives and ideas of art represented as the roof of the portico with no pillars to support. Art-supporting pillars emerge simultaneously in Stage 3 as physical tools and communication, both means and products of art. In Stage 4, another layer and step is added to the foundation beneath the pillars. This evolves art from being purely instinctive to critically thought out. In Stage 5, that layer gets formally named. The art tools and technology are specified as media. This is to distinguish it from the physical data carried by the media. The information codified by data is now known as media content, the communicated message. This content includes the Richard Dawkins definition of memes. There's also concepts that emerge in the gap between the physical and information pillar, such as socializing, concepts that don't fit neatly into either category. The concept of what I call stray data also exists in the gap, which means lost information that still exists at least partially in the form of data. In Stage 6, the second layer and step of the foundation gets named to a more specific form of philosophy as the precursor to its more familiar name. This is due to the perceived scope of physical reality evident in physical data. The specification degrades what's left of philosophy to a perceived lesser important pillar of information. It rests on the bottom half of the pillar I call conceptual reality. The memes become properties of that part of reality. Stray data is not relevant enough to repeat from here on. Stage 7 is the modern world spawned by renaming natural philosophy its more familiar name, science. Specifically, it's philosophy of science that changes how we examine everything. It's philosophy of science that designates different forms of science to broader subcategories such as natural science, aka physical science. This gives general philosophy back its due respect and eventually gives birth to what we now call social science. The concept of socialization now falls neatly into the domain of social science. These core disciplines and related concepts are represented by the same colors throughout the book. I also explain what would happen if the structure was dismantled. Figure 8 only represents perception aside from actual reality. The full scope of reality is represented in Figure 9. I hope this animation works much better for you than the static stage is shown separately in the book. I hope you are looking forward to the next video in the series and will leave critical feedback in the comments. Thanks for watching.